This is a story you may not have heard. Maybe you have. Maybe you've thought, I've never met anyone like that. I've never heard of that. Yesterday, they were acknowledging it. Some are calling this movement, this concept, detransitioning, detransitioners. Some will tell you, oh, that doesn't exist. And people say, that's not a thing. People go through a sex change, if you want to call it that, and that's sort of the end of it. But it's not true, and it hasn't been that way for a long time. And somebody who has been speaking truth on this issue for decades because of his personal experience and the devastation that he has seen gender modification, sex change, child gender modification, all these things have on people, is here today to speak. Please welcome Walt Heyer.
Thank you, Jonathan. And the values that we're talking about here today need to be the values of the entire country. These are so important. The genital mutilation of children has become the greatest medical fraud in my lifetime. No one at any time so far has ever accomplished changing their gender. The only thing they do is destroy their genitalia so that they are unable to produce a child or produce sperm. This is genocide. We need to stop it. And I detransitioned 32 years ago after identifying as Laura Jensen for 7 years, almost 8 years. And when I came to know the Lord Jesus Christ, I was with my counselor, and I was sitting there in his office, and we'd gone through all these things that I've gone through in my life that I'd suffered early on. And we were going through, I was recovering from alcoholism. We were going through the steps, and I was on my 4th step where you tell somebody about what you're struggling with, and he began to pray with me. And through that prayer, we spent about 2.5 hours in his office going over all the things that had happened. And at the end of that time, I had written them down on 21 pieces of paper, all these different things. I'd been abused sexually, I'd been abused emotionally, I'd been abused psychologically, I'd been beaten by my mother, and I'd been beaten by my father. I was abused as a child. And I was now regurgitating these things during this time, and he said, you know, what we need to do now is pray. We need to pray about what the Lord can do with your life. And we started that prayer in his office. I'll admit to you, it was kind of a prayer that I didn't want to have. I was exhausted about talking about all the things that were so painful to me in my life. But I relented, and he began to pray. And he was praying. And during that prayer, I stopped hearing him. But what I did see, when I looked up, was the Lord Jesus Christ. The Lord Jesus was coming down, and I looked in front of me, and I saw a little baby right there in front of me, and I looked and I said, that baby is me. The Lord is coming for me today. The Lord picked that baby up during that prayer, held that baby in his arms, and turned to me, and he said, you are now safe with me forever. And that day I was redeemed and restored by Jesus Christ to come and talk to you today to tell you about the horrifying effects of destroying children, adults, and others who do not need hormones, who do not need surgery. We need to stop this insanity, and I am so glad you're stepping up to do it. Thank you very much.